Well then, good morning everyone and welcome. My name is Dávid Mólnar and I will be moderating today's webinar on behalf of the EDUC Alliance. It is a pleasure to see such a strong interest in this topic, with participants joining us from across Europe representing universities, secondary schools, European university alliances, policy bodies, and local and regional authorities as well. Today, we focus on one key question: how cooperation between secondary schools and higher education institutions can be strengthened, especially in a European context. This is particularly timely as we look forward ways to reduce inequalities, support young people's transitions, respond to regional and societal needs. Over the next 2 hours, we will hear keynote perspective, explore concrete project examples, reflect together on challenges, success factors, and opportunities for scaling collaboration. Our aim is not only to exchange these experiences, but also to identify practical insights that can inform future cooperation within and beyond EDUC. Thank you for being us today. Let us begin. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. Dr. Mette Bunting is a professor at the University of Southeastern Norway and brings expertise in education sciences and in leading European projects focused on school-university cooperation and co-creation with young people. Professor Bunting, the floor is yours.
Thank you for inviting me, as I said, and I have worked with a lot of different schools and municipalities over many years, and in this presentation I will try to talk sort of generally about the topic, but I will also give some examples from what I have done in recently years. And I think one thing that is a good term that many of you might know already is the word the third room. And this is one thing to describe how collaboration, for instance, between higher education and schools can be done in a successful way and in a meaningful way. It's perhaps something, it depends on working like this. And the third room is something used in projects for long-term sustainable collaboration. And then they talk about we need to form arenas, a third room, not and the first room, that could be the university, for instance, and the second room could be the school, but the third room is where they come together. And this is where they meet on equal terms and contribute their knowledge and experience at all levels of both organizations. And these equal terms you can find in the expression co-creation, at least in a radical sense, that you have the symmetry, for instance, in research, or if you collaborate around professional, like for instance, teacher education. When you meet in this third room, you meet on equal terms. It doesn't mean that you put away your experiences or the way, for instance, that you are experts on different arenas, but you are on equal terms and you talk together, and together you develop something new in this third room. So it's not actually just meeting, because you can say you can still be two rooms in one room. So the third room means that where you meet, then something happens and you create something new, a new understandings. And I think one thing was in a couple of years ago we got a new report in Norway about how to include young children in vulnerable positions in Norway, and they were saying that when they had, for instance, children who needed more than one services, then they had trouble because the professional working around these children, they worked not together, but one way or the other, and together that created blind spots. So actually, yes, they did get help, but they didn't get the help needed. So I think that is also a picture of a third room when it comes to when you get help or when you collaborate with students, is how do we make sure that it's actually sort of happens something else. We don't continue to do the same that we do in the other rooms that we usually are. And I think it's important to also collaborate when it comes to knowledge. I mean, what is the truth? What is correct knowledge? Is it what do we find in the research, or we find just a little bit piece of it, or perhaps our research can be, for instance, understood differently when we talk with the people in the field. My experience is that actually when we do research, it is better by being in the third room with the field. And it is also this about empowerment, or when we're working with schools. I see that very often when we work like this and we then have research reports that have perhaps been part of pointing at areas where they need research, then when I get the research and we together look into it, and in the third room, they are empowered. And it's also something to give voice, either to the people in the schools, but it can also be, for instance, vulnerable groups. They can be young people. And in the quality research, we see that this is more needed to giving voice to other people that don't usually have voices. And this is, of course, an ethical perspective as well. And if we really would like to be part of participants in municipalities, organizations, schools, and other arena, we can't really manage to do real innovation and change unless we do actually we are in the third room collaborating. We are a fundamentation of the project with the field, and we work with them throughout the whole project. And also then they own the innovation, and then when they're going to do it in the daily life, within the budget they have normally, then it's a much better chance that this will lead to something more. And one thing I really been working with lately is this about when I do research together with the field or in other areas where it's not natural to be so involved, I see that it's not enough just to publish articles, and not enough just to perhaps have some, like I do now, a keynote, but we need to translate what we have found out into policy recommendation, yes, for the national level, but also for those who translate the policies that the national level or the regional level decides that are supposed to be done, exemplifying our research so they can actually use it in the field in a better way. So in this project that I was leading, that was called Co-Created Education through Social Inclusion, which was funded by, as you see, Erasmus+, K3. It was a policy project. And I must admit that when I applied for this, I was no expert on the policy development, but fortunately I had partners that were. But our major ambition was to include a higher ratio of disadvantaged, marginalized youth into excelling in labor market, education, and social life. That means actually to find their place in the society. And this was building on another project that we had found a model for inclusion in both higher education and in upper secondary school. And we asked ourselves, how could this be something that we could make context sensitive into a European model? So that was the background of it. I put some links in my presentations because I'm not going to talk too much about the project, but if you are nosy, then you can click on the film later if you want to. Just to show you the complexity, because it's so easy to talk about collaboration. And I must say, the first project that developed the first model, we were under 3 partners and 3 university partners. Here we were 11 partners in 5 countries, but 6 of the partners were different schools or organizations working with young people that struggled to complete successfully or successfully come into the labor market. And not only that, but we came from very different countries with different cultures, different programs. We were Portugal, Spain, Denmark, Poland, and Norway. So in that sense, this was a very, very complex project. And I probably would not recommend to have 11 partners, but it also shows that you can actually collaborate and co-create, even though it's so many, but it takes an effort, of course. But we worked at through the whole way at co-creating through the whole project on every level. And our aim was to develop a European model that was applicable around the whole Europe. and also develop European policies for social inclusion. And in all this, it wasn't just that we went to the organization interviewing. Of course, we did interview and worked hard on that, but we also had the partners with us. You know, we had to discuss and do what do we need to ask, because very often as researchers, even though I have a background from education, I have been a teacher, but I mean, that is soon 20 years ago. So how would I know the correct answers, or the answers that are useful to actually give me the answers I don't know I need? And that's where our partners are so valuable. So when we can plan the questionnaires, when we planned how we're going to work with gathering all the information, that will be and how to train, for instance, as the role models, everything we needed to work and collaborate together. They needed our experts' role as researchers in research and theory, and we needed the experts' knowledge on how it is actually, what's the need in society today, where is it difficult, where is it perhaps we have something we don't know about. So we needed them to help us through. But in the running of the project as well, it meant that as a coordinator, I had to try to be very open and democratic, and have a more processual leadership, which is hard and also can be frustrating sometimes. But all in all, what happened then was that everybody had an ownership to everything we did, which was important. And we had many discussions, believe me. When it says that training the role models, one of the key points about the model was to look at the one person that we call the role model, the teacher or the social worker or somebody else who worked with these young people that needed another inclusive processes to be able to be successful in their lives. And we had a training that we had from the other project, but in this time of training these role models, because we had 2 cycles, so we're trying out 2 different types of groups in all the success settings, they needed also to be an active part of giving feedback, because they also had experiences from before about success. So we had to integrate all this collaboration to try to fit, to develop this model so it will be sustainable. And also when it came to the methodology we used, I will show you a little snippet of this with the young people, the way they responded, the way they gave us feedback, that also was part of the cooperation to develop all the results. And of course, we developed something called the collaborative competence groups. It is built on other parts of experiences. And this is we will gather all the different sort of stakeholders in the project, but we have a sort of a policy, put it like that at least half of the group should consist of young people in the project, because they are the ones who really would like to have the voices up to look at the project. And this group will follow us throughout the whole project, having about 4 meetings a year in each country, giving us feedback in the first stage when we were making the regional model, but also when we try to do the European model, that will give us feedback, advice, and we will talk together. So in the Norwegian group, we had 3 young people from the school. We had 1 student from higher education. We had a teacher from the school. We had a national political advisor, one who actually translates the government's policy down to the municipalities. And he was part of the group. And we had a researcher that had nothing to do with the project, and the facilitator from the project. And as I say, this was actually, it is a bit hard in the beginning for the young people, so you have to give them time to get into this. But in this sense, they knew that what they were part of was to build or develop a model and policies recommendations for the European field. So that took this very seriously and gave us a lot of different feedback. So this is, we had to also find out what do we do with the young people that struggle more than others in school, the vulnerable, who doesn't really have all the words to say, how can we create a third room for them to be able to express their experiences, what they think, what they mean. And we used, for instance, drawings like this one here with, that you see to the left, where they draw the school history. And they would see what hindered them and what pushed them along the way. And in this way, even though the teachers knew their students very well, they found out so much more. And then the photo voice could, for instance, ask questions, ask them, what helps you to be a good learner, to a good student? And then we would get sort of photos from different things that we never thought about would make them good learners. And then you could discuss with them and develop an understanding both for the teacher and also for the researchers that what was important for the young people today. So this is what we made. I'm not going to go into them, but I put it in here with all the links if you are interested. And we have in the policy recommendation, we had one who compared all the different countries' national policies to see how that worked towards the Europeans and other reports. And then the second, and I think that's perhaps the most one, and promoting social inclusion, promising educational practices. We wanted to translate them in examples. What can you do? And what can you do more of? Or what do you do already to work like this? So to sum up, what can happen when we work in the third phase? Many things can happen, but this is some of it. We actually managed to establish a real collaboration in education and research. We have an increased consciousness and competence about each other's perspectives of work, and we talk about the silos, the walls between organizations, both within a higher education and in the field. This is a way, if we work like this, the walls, they shrink a bit, or at least there's some peeping holes, so we can be in the third room. It's so much easier for us to identification knowledge gap, both in when we plan to develop our educations or research, finding suitable informants, partner focus, whatever you need when we in higher education work with developing our portfolio or our research. If we have this collaboration in the third room, it strengthens this and it's a better quality, is my movement, is my experience. Identification of stakeholders, to have good stakeholders, people who can open doors for you, whatever it is. But my experience is as well to have, not to have stakeholders for the momentum, the here and there, but to build relationship with organizations over many years. It is very, very fruitful. An understanding of finding and challenges, for instance, in the project, it was very good to discuss with the people in the field. What does it mean? What do you understand our findings when you see this? And also you can get access to local data or groups that you otherwise wouldn't have. You find directions you otherwise would have overlooked. It is, I think the third room is like finding gold in many ways. And working with policy, you have more leverage if you have worked with the people in the field, the schools. And this is very close to my heart. That's why I put a heart in there. It's a chance to give voice to voices, because I work with the children and youth in vulnerable positions. And I think it's so important that both in our education and our research, we give voices to the voiceless. We create a third room for these as well, them as well. Thank you so much for letting me come. I just put in here, it's a book about this working together with partners. And thank you for letting me say what I did. And I look so much forward to hearing what the rest of you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these reflections. Now we move from the broader conceptual perspective to the other concrete practices. In the next session, we will explore 4 case examples of cooperation between universities and secondary schools, ranging from local initiatives to transnational projects. These cases highlight different approaches contexts and disciplines, but all share a commitment to collaboration, inclusion, meaningful engagement with young people. I will briefly introduce each project as we go along and invite the speakers to present in turn. I also kindly ask each presenter to respect the allocated time. Our first case comes from University Jaume I and the Politècnic Secondary School in Castellón. This cultural project brings together university staff, secondary school students, and wider community with a strong focus on participation, creativity, and local engagement. I'm very pleased to invite Carmen Lázaro, Vice Rector for Culture, Languages, Society, María from Arts Department at the Politècnic Secondary School, and Ángel Portoles from the University Extension Program. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to share this project at this EDUC Alliance Roundtable. My name is Carmen Lázaro, and I serve as the Vice Rector for Culture, Languages and Society at University Jaume I, UJI. This initiative is a core part of UJI's University Extension Program, PEU, and stands as a prime example of the synergy between our university and the local community. From an institutional perspective, I would like to highlight 4 key pillars of this initiative. First, the role of culture as a catalyst for development and a driver of innovation and change. Second, the importance of creating collaborative spaces where knowledge exchange brings the university closer to society. In this regard, our University Extension Program is a benchmark officially recognized by the Councils of Europe's Faro Convention. Third, the invaluable role of the people who participate in these processes, making the growth of these networks possible. And fourth, the commitment to the 4th mission of the university, social responsibility and generating a tangible impact on our local territory. The PEU, our University Extension Program, serves as a vital meeting point, offering technical support to local groups and heritage initiatives. This has allowed UJI, our university, to build a network of networks focusing on heritage education, contemporary art, and social development. To delve deeper into the practical application of these values, I now give the floor to Ángel Portoles, PEU UJI technician, who will share the collaborative experience between the Cultural Association L'Espardenya de Villores and the Polytechnic Secondary School in Castellón and our university. Ángel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Carmen. I'm Ángel Portoles, and I work in the Jaume I University, in the University Extension Program. As Carmen has explained it perfectly, the University Extension Program is a network that engages the university and the territory. The starting point of this idea is the concept of heritage community of the Faro Convention of the Council of Europe. In this convention, as you can see in these slides, a heritage community consists of people who value specific aspects of cultural heritage which they wish, within the framework of public action to sustain and transmit the future generations. In this definition, the power is for the citizenship, in the framework of the public action, of course, but it's very important to consider that this heritage community involves all the actors that are in this process, not only institutions, not only schools, not only cultural associations, all the people in the same place to design and to decide what kind of policies they want to develop, in this case, in the framework of a cultural heritage, a heritage or something like this. The activity that we want to share with you in this webinar is a good example of heritage community. This process started some years ago when the Espardeña Cultural Association in Villores is a small municipality in the north of Castellón province. More or less, we are talking of 40 people. It's a very, very small municipality, but with a very a strong cultural association that developed a very interesting activities about cultural heritage. Okay, as I was saying, this cultural association contacted University Extension Program to develop cultural projects about the local cultural heritage. After different cultural projects, in 2025, the Cultural Association, the Politècnic Secondary School in Castellón, and UGI signed an official agreement with the purpose of engage these three organizations and design a common cultural project about one of the most important heritage in Villores, the Espardeña. Espardeña is a traditional soup made with vegetal fibers. To explain this process, let me introduce Ana María Mas, teacher in the Politècnic Secondary School in Castellón, and she will explain this process. Ana María?
Thank you, Angel. Good morning. I'm Ana María, a teacher from the Visual Arts Department in Politècnic Secondary School in Castellón. And I'm here on behalf of my colleagues from different departments in our school who has been involved in this collaboration as well. I would like to briefly present how a local proposal evolved into an innovative school-university cooperation project rooted in the rural part of our own province and aligned with European educational values. The starting point was very concrete. At the end of the last school year, during a teachers' meeting, a local cultural association invited us to collaborate transversally on educational projects linked to the artisanal manufacture of espadrilles, a traditional rural craft that have been the main livelihood and identity of a village in our province, Villores, and which today is almost lost. The association already had an existing agreement with the university unit specialized in rural and cultural heritage, the one presented from Angel. And their aim was not only to preserve this know-how, but also to bring rural territory and culture closer to younger and more urban students. And teachers were invited to propose projects from our own subjects. So from there, the collaboration took shape through a series of joint meetings involving the university, the cultural association, and we, the interested teachers from different departments. And together we designed activities and agreed that the first public outcome would be presented at the school Christmas fair last December, conceived as a pilot project and the starting point of a long-term collaboration. At this initial stage, departments such as arts, technology, IT, history, languages, good workshops from vocational training, among others, were involved at different levels. While some subjects, as mine, already generated student work, others contribute through teacher planning and project design, and will become more actively involved in the future during next phases as the project develops. During the fair, the Christmas fair, an exhibition stand showcased student work and served as a shared space where local artisans demonstrated live espadrille making, and will parallel activities such as gincana or craft workshops took place. In addition, as a part of this collaboration, some students produced small handcrafted items sold through the school cooperative in a solidarity initiative, raising funds for a local social cause. So in brief, this experience shows how educational innovation can emerge from local needs, how a school-university cooperation strengthens learning ecosystems, how rural cultural heritage can become a driver for competence-based participatory education with clear European potential. Thank you. To end our participation, I will give the floor to Angel again, and he will explain some keys of this project briefly.
Thank you very much, Ana María. And what are the key success factors of this project? For example, in general, the value of the individuals who have joined this process as a starting point for generating a heritage community in the sense of Faro Convention, as I have told previously. The importance of the process in designing a space that can be sustained over time for learning and self-reflection on heritage, its value and importance. From the UGI's perspective, the positive recognition of the university as a partner serving the cultural process taking place in the region. The existence of a program that aims to bring the institution closer to the region and that has offered technical support to the local groups with projects related to culture and cultural heritage for more than 20 years. And the existence of official collaboration agreements that allow institutions and groups to connect for these cultural purposes. From the perspective of the cultural association, the existence of an active technical support, in this case from the university, and the opportunity to develop their cultural projects. They actively participated in the working meetings held through 2025, which brought together university, high school teachers, and university staff. The cultural associations organized a visit for teachers to the municipality of Villores, so they could learn more about the projects and local heritage. They contributed their experience and knowledge to the entire process, ensuring that the activities carried out were aligned with the Cultural Association's heritage project. Finally, what kind of challenges we can find in this project? Well, the main challenge could be the continuity of this ongoing process, which has its first activity in the Christmas fair. From the UGI's perspective, to support and mediate between the different parts of this project, that is sometimes is not very easy, and to take care of the different participants, so the pace and frequency of the activities and are considered with the characteristics and possibilities of each one of the parties involved. And in this point, I want to give the floor to Ana María to explain briefly, very briefly.
I'm very sorry. Sorry to interrupt, but yes, please conclude to your final remarks and final point because we have to move on. You overstepped your 10-minute mark as well. So please, I ask Ana María to conclude your presentation so we can move on.
30 seconds, David.
Okay, so answering the question about the involvement of young people and teachers in shaping the project and the added value that this brought to them or to us, as well as the lessons learned, I mentioned that this initiative allowed students to learn by doing through research in the rural environment of their province. It has involved creating from artistic posters about territory craft, the link between school and the village, craft activities related to espadrilles, solidarity initiatives and recreational activities such as scavenger hunts, creative contests, etc. And these activities have forced knowledge of techniques and tools, specific vocabulary, and the geographical and cultural context. And the exhibition stand project also involved some collaborative work between secondary and vocational education programs with close collaboration among teachers. So this allowed students to understand the need to coordinate and to adapt their work to integrate into a common and interdisciplinary result. So in brief, I think we all have learned a lot, and it's been such a great collaboration between these three implicated parts: university, the village, whose integrants in this collaboration are really happy with the results, and of course as a teacher here in high school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, our next presenter, our next case comes from Hungary, highlighting cooperation between University of Pécs and the Klára Leőwey High School. I now invite Gabriella Pénzeli to present her experiences.
All right, just a moment, I will try to share my screen. All right, can you please give me feedback that you can see my screen?
Yes, we see it. Yes, it's perfect.
All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Gabriella Pénzeli from Leőwey Klára High School. And today I would like to give a presentation on a possible way of building a fruitful connection between our institution through EDUC. And I would also like to highlight that this presentation it's not just mine. I prepared it together with my very kind colleagues, but today I will be responsible for delivering the message we would like to get across. So let me give an outline on what you can expect. First of all, I would like to tell you who we are as a high school. Then I would like to share what kind of connection we have to the University of Pécs. And then we would like to offer a possible collaboration for the future. So Leőwey Klára High School of Pécs. It is situated in the southern part of Hungary in Baranya County. We have approximately 600 students and we have 60 teachers, so we are considered a huge school. And we are very happy that we have a lot of different study programs that we can offer to our students. The first one I would like to highlight is a special class for disadvantaged students. Here, the students are disadvantaged because of their sociocultural background, maybe because of the low education of their students, and also because, unfortunately, they have low income as well. And for them, we can give a first preparatory year that would like to develop their basic key competencies so they can catch up with their peers. We also have some special language programs for those who would like to learn English, German, and French. Here I would like to highlight that in the German program, we have a group who can learn a lot of subjects in German as well. And also our French program is bilingual, which means they learn a lot of subjects in French as well. And probably these days, maybe I can see the fanciest class that we can offer is the natural sciences. Those who are interested in maths, physics, IT, biology, or chemistry can find their place there. Some words about our pedagogical psychology, philosophy, sorry. So for us, it is very important as teachers to have a profound subject-specific knowledge. We also put emphasis on continuous planning and reflection on the learning process. So we are trying to be reflective practitioners of our profession. The quality of communication online and offline between students, teachers, parents, that's also a key thing. And maybe the most significant thing is the atmosphere to have a good time in the school. All right, so how we are connected to the University of Pécs. First of all, I think it is an important thing that the majority of teachers in our school graduated from this university in the teacher training program. And since 2020, including me, 10 newly graduated teachers from UP have joined our school, which is quite a high number compared to other institutions, not just in Pécs, but also other regions of the country. The average age of teachers in Hungary is something like, if I'm not mistaken, 60. So it's pretty high, unfortunately. But here in our school, there are a lot of young colleagues, and we are very happy that we are given the trust to teach. All right, so we also have 3 colleagues who are currently pursuing their PhD studies at the various doctoral schools of the university, and 3 more work in the teacher training program as tutors, holding specific pedagogy seminars. And their work there as in-service high school teachers is very important because they can scaffold the bridge between theory and practice, which is an ever recurring challenge for student teachers, like how to become a teacher from a student teacher. That's not an easy topic. And here in Hungary, if you would like to become a teacher, you also have to participate in a 1-year-long teaching practice under the supervision and mentoring of an in-service teacher. And as a partner institution, our school also offers this opportunity to student teachers. So we have a lot of university students here in our school who are practicing teaching in various groups. So they actually teach different subjects, and they are engaged in a lot of other teaching related activities. All right. We also have a Chinese language learning program. It is rather for our high school students. So if there's someone who would like to learn this language, they can get access to this opportunity. All right. So now, of course, the question arises, what kind of collaboration can we imagine for ourselves through EDUC, and how could we do that? In 2024, the so-called Lychee group was created in our school. If I try to translate it into English, it would be like innovation group for youth. And here you can see a lot of colleagues of mine are members of this group with various subjects like English, German, French, history, digital culture, PE, and geography. And also a principal, who is a researcher in pedagogy and education. And in 2024, we had our first meeting with the representatives of EDUC at the University of Pécs, where we had this idea that it would be pretty good to establish some kind of cooperation between our school and EDUC. And of course, time flew by as always, but luckily we could get back to each other in 2025. And now I'm here at this policy roundtable briefing. And we were thinking about what is the thing that we could propose in the future, maybe. And it would be a course with a topic of possible challenges of the digital era. And this is why we gave this title, A Possible Way of Reconnecting. Sorry, this is the bell. So the digital era, of course, in a way, it is a blessing because we are more connected to each other. It is quite easy to connect, for example, in Europe with other nations and so on and so forth. But as we are working with students, we also see that there are a lot of disadvantages, Like, we are not that connected to ourselves. We are not that connected to nature. We are not that connected to our body anymore. And I think these topics are very, very important. And we see that it could be a nice opportunity to give university students with pedagogical interest and high school students a chance to talk about this topic together within online lectures, discussions with palpable end products at the end maybe. And here you can see 4 topics that we really interested in as teachers: digitalization, media literacy, AI, critical thinking, screen addiction, and mental health. So I think these are the topics that we could work on together with university students and high school students in a course in the future, maybe. So that was my presentation, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for this presentation and also for respecting the time. Now we move to our third case, which will focus on an interdisciplinary collaboration. We will hear about 2 initiatives, actually, that aim to strengthen education and promote inclusion and support student engagement, particularly among young people. First, I would like to invite Professor Giorgiana Di Giovannis to introduce UNICA's STEM project, and also Professor Massimo Barbaro presenting the POT project of UNICA. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to briefly present UNICA-STEM, a new project aiming at reinforcing collaboration between university and secondary school in STEM education. UNICA-STEM is a 2-year university project funded by the Italian Ministry of Equal Opportunities, and it involves 7 departments of the University of Cagliari and regional secondary school. It's a very young project, started in December 2025, with a total budget of 300,000 euros. The project, the main focus of the project is the development of 19 courses for secondary school teachers, covering a broad range of STEM disciplines, from mathematics and computer science to biotechnology and engineering. But a key feature of UNICA-STEM is that the courses will be co-designed with schools teachers and will not be a simple catalog of ready-made activities. So co-design is a core principle of the project. Teachers from secondary school will be involved from the very beginning of the project through dedicated co-design meeting. Together, we will select tools, activities, teaching approaches to ensure that the courses respond to real classroom needs. And all the courses will follow an inquiry-based approach with gender equality and student-specific needs at the core of the design. And of course, co-design also support the alignment with school curricula, for example, calendars, and of course, the available resources of the school. Another key element of UNICA-STEM is the interdisciplinarity. The courses will integrate the concept, as I mentioned before, of several STEM disciplines. Why? Because this approach will help teacher to reinforce basic skills while showing how they are applied in real world context and all modern technology. As I mentioned before, again, inclusivity will be addressed from different perspective. First of all, hands-on experiment and activities will project beyond gender barriers, supported by an inclusive glossary. And, for example, group work where female students will be encouraged to take active roles. But inclusivity also means engaging the entire Sardinian regional territory, and which is why courses will be delivered in schools, including the geographically isolated ones. And in particular, one course from Hypatia to the present will focus on contemporary women professionals and researchers, showing that STEM careers are realistic pathways and do not require being exceptional. Active learning will be the pedagogical backbone of the project. As I mentioned before, all courses will be based on hands-on experience, bringing laboratory activity into the classroom. This approach fosters engagement, long-term learning, and build confidence in STEM, both teaching and learning. The project is structured in several phases. First of all, formal agreement will be signed with partner school. After this, university staff at partner school will jointly refine course proposal and teaching materials and methodologies. A 4 months pilot phase will allow the courses to be tested with partner school teachers, and feedback from this phase will be used to optimize the final courses. And finally, during a 12 months full-scale phase, the courses will be offered to all the interested teachers with multiple editions to ensure accessibility. In conclusion, UNICA-STEM is designed to reinforce school-university collaboration, gender equality and students' specific needs will be systematically integrated across all the project activity. Teachers will play a central role throughout the project, and the students will be involved through classroom experimentation and hands-on learning. And of course, the regional dimension will be reinforced through partnership with schools across the Sardinian territory, and also collaboration with local stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now the next presenter, Professor Massimo Barbaro.
Hello.
Thank you.
Yes, Massimo Barbaro, University of Cagliari. The project is called POT, which is the Italian version of University Orientation and Tutoring Project. This project was funded by the Italian Ministry of Education, or University of Research. It's a 2-year project which involves 46 Italian universities that have engineering school. Almost all of them, only a few of the public ones are missing at least. The total budget is 1,700,000 euros, but the budget for each partner of course is less, and for University of Cagliari was 3,000 euros. That's a mix of national and local activities aimed to promote the access to university, so increase the number of students joining the university, reduce the dropout in the first year, which is a critical aspect, and most important, innovate activities and services to reduce barriers to universities and reduce inequalities. The actual activities were local and national, as I said. On the local ones, we organized events aimed at a large population of students, so to meet a lot of them, to promote access to university. We organized activity to reduce dropout with the students of the first year, and organized in the schools vocational laboratories with the aim to help students to understand which is their true and real vocation. So the idea is to use orientation as an education tool rather than just the promotion of the university. And on the national side, on the national aspect, we had a website to increase the awareness about engineering. Sardinia is a second largest island in Italy. It has 1,500,000 inhabitants, so it's a large territory, very poorly connected. The public transportation is very bad. So our university, which is in the south, in Cagliari, is quite disconnected from at least half of the territory. So we decided to move, collaborate with the schools, and move our open days not only in our campus, university campus, but to go in the territories, organizing free events in 3 different cities in the center and north of Sardinia, hosted by the schools. So there were free collaborating schools that hosted us, were involved in the organization of the open days. So they provided help with their students who played the role of chaperones for the students coming from other schools. And in this way, we could reach more than 3,200 students from 39 different schools in the whole territory of the region. The activities were not just a unidirectional presentation, as typical of these events, but rather discussions, one to few, one to many, demos, and involvement not only of professors, but researchers, PhD students, and even university students. And most important was the coordination with the hosting schools, which helped us a lot to reach a large number of people and to reach the territory. The tutoring activity is less related to school university cooperation. It was 2 weeks elective courses organized before the start of the semester to fill the gaps in the education, especially in math, for the students. So we recruited the tutors, and we trained those tutors for a different way of teaching. So they were teach to organize group-based activities, not just lectures. So practical activities, and in this way we enrolled more than 200 students in the courses, and 91% of them passed successfully the final exam, and so they recovered their educational gaps. And the third activity, which was organized in a strong cooperation with the school, is these kind of vocational laboratories. For the moment, we started with only one kind of laboratory. We repeated that 6 times in 6 different schools, aimed at the STEM domain, in particular electronic devices and Internet of Things. The idea was to bring experiential activities, so put devices, sensors and stuff in the hands of the students so they could engage in something which is close to what engineering is, because engineering is something which is not, of course, part of the curriculum in high school. So most of the students do not know quite well what it is about, what's the actual meaning of they have a very confused idea of the profession. So the idea was to put these devices in their hand and engage them with experiential activity. And, we had a very good feedback and positive feedback from them. And their professors were in the labs during the activity, so they could maybe make connections with what they were doing and the disciplines they taught, such as computer science or mathematics or physics as well. And okay, this is less a cooperation. The national website about engineering called Horizon Engineering contains a number of written pen portraits and video interviews to professionals, so engineers, that presented their activity, what they actually do, how they arrived to consider engineering as a profession. And special attention was put on the gender balance of the contribution. We had more than 70 contributions in the website. So
sorry to interrupt, but yeah, please summarize.
Because
I was just
summarizing.
Perfect.
Yeah, just summarizing. The strengths, we could reach a large number of students, overcoming the problems of connections and public transportation in the Sardinia region. And the vocational laboratories, in particular, were crucial to meet the students in their environment in the schools and to engage them with something more practical. Areas for improvements, it's difficult to cooperate with some of the schools because they are not really motivated to engage in such activities that alter their routine and their organizations. And this kind of activity requires a very large amount, not only of money, but especially of human resources. So it's difficult also to engage the researchers and PhD students since they have other priorities in their professional life. And this is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our final case in this session comes from the University of Potsdam. I will now invite Dr. Katarina Delius, a postdoctoral researcher at the Department of British and American Studies at the University of Potsdam, to present this work. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. And welcome. Yeah, I'm going to talk about a current research project I'm doing on virtual exchanges in secondary English classrooms. And I will not be able to obviously show you everything about this project and not go into detail, but I will strongly focus on the question of collaboration, who was involved in the projects, what challenges did we find so far, and what lessons we have learned. Right, so first of all, what is virtual exchange? Very briefly, most of you are probably familiar with the concept. Virtual exchanges refer to the engagement of learners with partners who are geographically separated and or from different social cultural backgrounds. These exchanges take place through online interactions and collaborative projects, for example, via video calls, shared digital platforms, or joint text production. In other words, they are precisely, or those forms of communication involve or give us a setting that is very important for our young people in the future. So we as lecturers or teachers in English see virtual exchanges as a very promising framework to fostering foreign language education in digital spaces. Now, while virtual exchanges have been widely researched in higher education, where we already have substantial empirical evidence of their potential, there is a significant lack of studies in school contexts, particularly in secondary education and primary education. And this gap is important because learners are much younger. They have language or their language proficiency levels are very or lower, definitely, as high school students most of the time. And of course, school contexts come with very specific curricular, organizational, and time constraints. So this gap between what we know from higher education and its potential and what we know about secondary school teaching, combined with a strong interest of also teachers in this topic, led to our guiding question, which is how should virtual exchanges be planned and conducted in the EFL classroom to promote digital communicative competencies of young learners? Now, as our overarching methodological framework, we chose design-based research, and from all the projects we've seen so far, and especially also from our key talk in the morning, I think design-based research is very close to what we are aiming at in our different projects, because what design-based research wants to do is to make practice and theory work closely together. So it aims at bridging the gap between educational theory and practice and classroom practice. Researchers and practitioners, collaborative design and intervention implemented in an authentic setting, so in our case a school, and refine it through iterative cycles. And as you can imagine, this approach seems particularly interesting or suitable for my project because it involves teachers' expertise and also learners' perspective. So not only the teachers, but also the learners involved in VE projects. And it allows for continuous improvement and also produces both theoretical insights and practical output, which is again relevant for other teachers. So not only for the particular teachers involved, but also for others. And these aspects mentioned, I believe, are key success factors in getting schools and higher education institutions work together in practice, because there is a mutual interest in optimizing the school practice, which is both relevant for teachers and researchers. So rather than applying a ready-made concept, we co-develop school projects together. On a very, on a meta level, structurally, DBR projects can be divided by those three stages you see here: an initial orientation and preparation phase, in which you first of all get information from the field, but also from theory; a cyclic phase of implementation and redesign, so where you work closely with the teachers, you go into the schools, you try out the projects, you continuously evaluate them with the help of the teachers and the learners in our case, and find out what can we change, what needs to be changed, and a final phase of consolidation and theory building. And ultimately, this iterative process results in an optimized design, referred as the reference design, as well as refined design principles and concrete material and methods that support its use in new context. Right, so now I'd like to briefly outline the main forms of collaboration in my study. So first of all, I interviewed experienced teachers in virtual exchanges, because obviously there are a lot. Maybe some of you have heard about the European funded project eTwinning. So there's a huge and a growing number of teachers and learners involved in exchanges throughout Europe, but of course also internationally or beyond Europe. And those teachers' experience is, of course, very valuable. So I interviewed them, and it showed, for example, the importance of a trusting working relationship between the participating teachers, and also the time you need to invest in this collaboration. And now these insights informed, again, my design principles, which I've just shown you, are built in the beginning basically on theory, what we know from higher education, for example, but the interviews also informed those design principles from a more practical perspective. Now, secondly, of course, the close collaboration within the project, within the cycles we did, is very good example of how teachers and researchers, in my case, myself, work together. So I, for example, contributed with my experience because I have read a lot. I know a lot about the theory. I know a lot about the higher education virtual exchange setting. And the teachers brought in their experience, or also, of course, their knowledge about their students, their individual students and their learner groups. I also helped out, for example, in finding international partner schools, and to that aspect I'll come in a second. Thirdly, the collaboration, of course, also was central in evaluating the projects, the individual projects. So teachers shared their classroom experience, highlighted realistic time constraints, curricular requirements, etc. And of course, also the learners were involved in this evaluation. So from their perspective, what did they think went well already? What could be optimized, etc. So we did focus group interviews, we observed them, we analyzed their products, etc. So overall, this collaboration between schools and higher education was, again, very much based on shared interest and took place, I'd say, on an equal level, because I wasn't going to the school and told the teachers that's how you do it, but rather seeing from this perspective, what could we do together to optimize those virtual exchange projects. However, nevertheless, we also faced challenges, but I think I need to differentiate between the challenges we saw on the basis of the project itself, and then also challenges in the collaboration between university and schools. The first big problem was finding suitable international partners who are open for collaboration and share similar objectives and goals. And I think that's one key aspect. Also, the EDUC Alliance can help out. Like we as universities could maybe get in contact with our local schools who might be interested in projects such as this. And then have like a platform installed where they could get in contact with each other, because we do have eTwinning, but eTwinning is very much interested more or less also in getting beyond the virtual exchange project and bringing together people. So it was not very successful in finding partners on our side, at least. Challenges, the teachers also, but of course also in the conducting of the projects, we saw were time constraints in school schedules, aligning the VE activities with existing curricula, coordinating across different school systems, of course, were also problems, and not to also mention technical equipment issues, both also digital skills of teachers and learners. Overall, the challenges highlighted show we need further, this needs further exploration and also refining the conditions under which virtual exchanges can succeed. And lastly, what I think is very important, next to the steps I'm going to proceed with, to see this project again going back to university, teacher training, because obviously we get insights into how it works in school, and so these will inform our way of teacher training, how we can wake interest in virtual exchanges on the level of high school students who want to become teachers again. And I think with that I have to close because we're out of time, but yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. And with all that, we're closing the first session of our webinar. And thank you very much for all the presentations and the presenters for these diverse and insightful examples and topics. Now we move on to the perspective of a European University Alliance. And I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Elisabetta Arnold Garcia, Associate Professor at the Politècnic University of Catalonia, representing the UNITE Alliance. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation and for organizing such an interesting panel. Especially thank you for allowing me to share our experience. So I'm sharing my slides, which I guess you can all see now. So I'm going to share, as you well introduced, our outreach strat, especially with regards to collaboration with high schools. And I'm moving slides. Sorry about this in a second. Now, This is an overview of our alliance, 9 technical universities. It united, those universities are linked to technology and innovation, and we're spread across Europe. My name, as you introduced me, is Elisabetta Romacea. I'm Associate Professor of Technical Communication at the Politècnic University of Catalonia, and within UNITE, I'm the coordinator of Community 9, which deals with strategic outreach, impact, and dissemination. So, focusing on outreach, this is an overview of what I'll be presenting in the next few minutes, our approach to outreach, examples of activities that address collaboration with high school, and especially focus on the added value from the Alliance perspective, challenges and opportunities, and some recommendations derived from this. So what is outreach in UNITE? How is it approached? Well, it's defined as the strategic engagement of external audiences through two-way communication. And we can't stress this enough. What does it mean? It means that we gather expertise, needs, and we collaborate on activities based on co-creation. We collaborate with industry, academic partners, on high schools, and I'll be focusing on high schools here. Another objective of outreach, and I'll be referring to this, is increasing outreach skills among the UNITE community, students, staff, and faculty, and I'll refer to this in a moment. Also, and this is important, we need to combine already existing resources and make the most of them together with the creation of new activities, pilot activities, and I'll be presenting some examples of this. So this is a background against which I will present examples of these pilot activities and also ongoing activities. The first activity that addressed high schools, and it has some parallels with the activity that was presented a while ago, was titled Your Tech Project with Social Impact. So in this activity, which took the form of a matchmaking event at what we call a UNITE dialogue. Dialogues in UNITE are the meeting point for the whole community, and usually within outreach, we invite external stakeholders and do co-creation activities with them. So recently, it was in February 2025, at the dialogue organized in Barcelona, we organized this matchmaking activity in which we invited university students from all 9 UNITE universities and high school teachers. And it was a hybrid event. So those high school teachers from the area of Barcelona could attend physically, and other teachers from the ecosystem of other universities could attend virtually. And so we had 5 partner universities participating in whether as students or as, high school from different countries, high schools from different countries. The objective was for engineering and technology students to present projects that they had done during their university studies and that could inspire new projects at the high school level. It was also in line with the EU objective of promoting interest in STEAM. It was also a way of promoting internationalization within high schools. So this could relate, for example, to further initiatives as e-twinning. So if a high school teacher could be interested in one of the projects presented, then the university student could act as mentor. So it was the idea of this matchmaking, and this can be continued, for example, with an e-twinning or another experience like the ones presented in the previous talk. Another activity that has been going on for several years, in fact, it builds on results from a previous UNITE project, H2020, is an activity within the European Researchers' Night. It's basically an online session done during a whole morning, because it has to coincide with a high school schedule. And it's an online session to disseminate scientific and technical knowledge on one of the UNITE focus areas. So different talks are given by experts from UNITE universities or from their ecosystem. So we draw on expertise, whether it is within the university or close to the university. And basically, there is a call to high schools connected with UNITE universities, and through their teachers, students ask questions about the use of technology. And these questions are answered during the talks by experts. An example topic that was addressed in 2024 was ethics and credibility in science and technology. And here there is a quote from the web page, basically debating on the role of artificial intelligence in society and to promote critical thinking among high school students. They all engage in artificial intelligence in some way or another, so it's important to develop media literacy and critical thinking. Another activity, the last activity I wanted to briefly present, is a pilot program that is just starting, and which is called A Road to University. And the idea is for high school students to experience being a student at an international university. So the whole idea that underlies all these activities is that by connecting, so high schools and universities have a lot of experience connecting, but now this connection can acquire an international dimension and through networking and collaboration. So there are activities organized locally by universities, for example, open days or other examples that have been presented during this panel. But here the idea is to attend an international university. Of course, because of the logistics and traveling would not be possible, high school students will be able to attend online classes by UNITE professors. And the idea is to have participation. We are 9 universities of at least 4 partner universities. A pilot will be starting at Politècnic di Torino by mid-2026. So the activity is currently under preparation. So it would be like one day at university. And finally, when I presented our approach to outreach, an idea that is very clear to us, and it's part of our roadmap, is to increase outreach skills. All of us within UNITE are potential outreach ambassadors. So with this idea in mind, as I mentioned at the start of this talk, we have scheduled different webinars, one for students, one for staff, and one for faculty. So I will briefly talk about the webinars for university students and faculty. The first one was co-created by SURE, which is the student association within UNITE. And we asked them, what do you need? And their need was very interesting because they said, we want to communicate technical knowledge to non-expert audiences, and we want to engage society. And again, this links in with the idea of students as role models, as examples, as potential mentors of high school students. So we did this in a kind of participatory activity, interactive webinar. A webinar that we organized with faculty and that was held in the last month of June was collaboration with high schools. So basically we had a guest lecturer with a lot of experience in addressing challenges and motivating high school students. And she presented a wide range of ideas and projects, including low-tech projects, so that because we're aware that resources is an issue. And then the idea was to, as well as with the rest of the webinars, to engage key actors at each of the university. So we ensured that we had like 2 key actors per university. This would mean like around 18 key participants that can have a sort of ripple effect, so that through the exchange of good practices at local level, and also the idea of engaging further audiences locally, this can increase. So results need to be seen because it's a recent activity. So we intend to follow up on how we can maximize collaboration with high schools, departing from good practices at local level and sharing them. Added value for Unite and opportunities. So the objective would be to promote STEM skills, raising awareness of STEM, but also of higher education opportunities, because some of these students might be motivated towards a degree in the engineering or technical field. Also university students, in this case Unite students, as role models. And of course, this idea of networking and connecting high school teachers and universities across the alliances. So we have these local connections already. How can we combine them into international connections? So examples of how these connections can be implemented were presented in the previous talk. So they would make like perfect examples. And of course, combining already existing resources and balancing them with new ideas, and always with the idea of project-based, hands-on methodologies, innovation, and internationalization of the curriculum. Also with the call that we launched, in the co-creation activity with high school students presenting the project, we emphasized positive social impact. So this would be an awareness-raising activity that we thought was important. There are challenges, and I link this with recommendation, communication with all parties, high schools, partner universities, organizational issues that have been referred to in previous talks in this panel, curricula, timing, workloads, different procedures and mechanisms, both at universities, at schools, motivation. So it's an extra workload for many of the actors involved, resources, and also impact. We need to disseminate calls. We need to get people involved, and activities might be potentially very interesting, but how do they fit in with already, schedules, existing programs? We need to draw on already existing resources and relationships and connect ecosystems. So the idea is sustainability, again, relating to the idea of effort and how this can be sustained over time, and regarding, resources, budget, etc. And of course, how to make the most of initiatives that already exist and combine best practices to avoid the duplication of resources or activities, or maybe to combine, if, for example, we do similar activities at different partner universities, how can we link them and add a layer that can make these activities more attractive, and how can we combine these efforts? So this would be a bit of the opportunities and challenges for linking universities within an alliance, at an alliance level, with the different ecosystems. And, well, I don't know if there are any questions or if there's anything you want me to expand further.
Thank you very much. If there are no questions, I just have one note, is to thank you very much for this fellow alliance level perspective on the topic. And with that, we could move on to the final segment of our roundtable, where we will hear short contributions from additional experts representing regional policy, student engagement, and so on. And I'm very pleased to welcome our first panelist, Vicente Ferté, Regional Academic Delegate, for the link between secondary education and higher education in the Brittany academic region within the French Ministry of National Education, Youth and Sports, affiliated with the University of Rennes. And also our second panelist, Arnaud Tremolier, President of the EDUC Student Board at the University of Paris-Nanterre, representing the student voice within our alliance, EDUC. He's also involved with Meridio, a student organization promoting civic actions through activities such as high school presentations, debates, and simulated parliamentary assemblies. Thank you, both of you, for joining us. Let us begin our roundtable with a question to Mr. Vicente Ferté, which is, from my side that what concrete tools and practices like digital courses, cultural projects, initiatives have proven the most effective in strengthening school-university cooperation from your perspective?
Well, hello everyone. Can you hear me well? Yes. Well,
perfect.
first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to join this roundtable. As a Regional General Secretary for Higher Education, Research and Innovation, I'm in charge of implementing the public policies of the Ministry of Higher Education for the whole Brittany region, located on the west part of France. A lovely place, actually, you might probably visit. I work, of course, on a daily basis with universities settled within the region and all the stakeholders that are connected to this continuum that brings together education, research, and innovation. And one of our main challenges as a policymaker is to align as possible these different communities in a kind of virtual cycle. And as a policymaker, we are really interested in finding new frames for dialogue between different stakeholders. Actually, I guess that's probably one of the main challenges we are facing right now, is how we make sure that we connect different communities. And we have seen in the different presentations that, well, this community is vibrant with many projects, many ideas. And a point in common I've seen in the different presentations I've listened is that the projects and the success of different projects rely on the capacity to connect these different communities. And creating third places where high school communities and higher education communities can collaborate is, I would say, the spine of what could be a new collaboration between higher education and high school. It has been said that one of the main things we have to keep in mind is how we bridge the gap between educational practice and theory by developing school and university projects. Maybe I would like just to bring to the debate well, actually one experience that I've been part of in my previous position. I worked at the French School of Public Health, and I've been part of a project actually implemented in Canada that was quite interesting in finding actually a place where expectations coming from higher education, expectations coming from high schools can meet together. This experience was titled Waterfall. And the aim of this experience was to better understand the implementation of environmental health policies. And it was a combination of online lectures provided to high school students and students and high school students, high school pupils, with a locally seminar to apply theoretical approach on specific case studies. And this was really a great interaction between how we can make sure that we enlarge the access to knowledge and how we ease the knowledge transfer on local experiences and on case studies based on a specific territory. And when it comes to how we implement health policies, we know that it's not only getting access to health, but also having this capacity of combining environmental policies, urban planning policies, and health access. And I think that maybe this kind of project could be easily transferred to, within the Alliance, since it embodies quite well how we can design probably online digital courses by bringing together STEM courses, digital courses, and cultural exchanges, and sharing a common knowledge that brings together basic concepts, and then how we decline them on local territories. And I guess that it's probably a great opportunity to grasp what makes the specificity of each territories and getting together a common sense of how we understand theories, how we work these theories, and how we try to decline them on local specificity. And on the field of public health, this pedagogical experimentation fueled the large diversity of public policies locally implemented in terms of environmental health. And I think that this is a kind of, probably we could be inspired by this kind of frame so as to better enlarge how we connect theories and practices.
It's just very plainly asking Arno as well to reflect on that. I don't know, we hear about a lot of presentations, projects, and studies. What is your experience, basically from the field? What is your real life experience working directly with high school students and students across European alliances and other formats?
Well, thanks for welcoming me for this presentation. Actually, I worked with students and high school students since a long time ago on a European level, and there's one thing that I know for certain, is that they don't really know what Europe really is and what Europe can really do for them. I remember that in high school, when I only managed some events, they never knew anything about Europe and what it could bring them. And that's literally the same thing in universities, where they know it exists, but they don't know that they could benefit a lot from it. So I tried to making sure that Europe is more connected to its students. And there are some activities that I managed to, create that helped uplifting European values. I remember that I did one day, I promoted the European Language Day in my high school, which worked a lot because now, now it's something that is usually and often redone in my high school, where basically each student, each high school student from each different nationality and European country, can share their own input and culture. And then afterwards, there was an academic staff from I don't know how to say it in English, but there was an academic staff that then shared some opportunities for high school students that they also can do afterwards as students, like Erasmus, gap year, and a lot of things that are really, really important for them. I also remember something is that you need to promote, and we need to promote, European-led initiatives like Erasmus Plus towards our students and high school students. So I don't have much to say, but those are things that are really important in order to make sure that they feel connected.
Just to maybe jump on this and drop on what has been said by Arnaud, I think that probably one space where we can make European values and European opportunities something really seen by all the stakeholders is, I do think that we have to work on what happens within the classroom, but also what happens outside the classroom. And in a learning experience, when you are in high school or when you are a student, we know that actually we went through this. There's probably something that is really an added value when it comes to this meeting with a specific teacher in a specific discipline and a specific course, but also what happened outside when you close the door of the classroom. And there's probably a large space where we can probably implement and increase the exposure of Europe to our learning communities. I do think that it's something probably we have to still work on.
So you're mentioning lack of awareness, lack of exposure, and what's happening outside of the classes, of course. Where do university alliances step in these pictures? Whose responsibility should be to take the lead in this? Are institutions, the regions, regional corporations, or the university alliances? What do you see on this regard? What should be the first step? What should be the added value of these alliances and institutions?
Arnaud, you want to go on?
Yeah, if you want, you can go before me.
Well, probably I think that there's maybe two aspects, and it has been said previously about the link of the need of getting this cultural sense, common sense of what Europe is. And probably I think that we have now the youth that really wants to have an impact on the contemporary world they are living in. So probably trying to foster and get a better sharing of cultural contents throughout maybe a platform, because we know that students, they are really interested in being part of the cultural life of their university, be the organization of an exhibition, a conference, a lecture, whatever. I mean, this is the kind of things that comes from the students, for the students, and that probably interest high school learners and high school students as well. And we can probably imagine that we work on offering a kind of a platform of cultural contents that is implemented and run by the Alliance, a kind of Netflix of cultural contents that probably could be a great exposure to things that are really interesting students. So this could be maybe something we could work on. And the other way is, again, trying to increase how we encourage the learners to have an impact. And again, I've also been part of a project which was trying to implement a civic learning program for students, so as to make sure that they can go outside the university. And we could probably try to think about a civic learning program shape at the level of the Alliance, with some internship opportunities, for example, to act with a local NGO in one of the place where the different members of the Alliance are located, so as to again get this combination of what does it mean to be engaged and well, theoretically speaking, and how we can be the opportunity of a very I mean, physical experience by working and going outside and in other places of Europe. I don't know, I'm not sure that I'm quite clear, but this is just spontaneous ideas I would like to share.
Well, I can jump on that, because you talked about well, student involvement, which is really, really important. If we want to share, and if we want them to be more involved towards local activities and also European ones, they should really be taken into account when creating said policies, when creating said activities, because if they don't feel that they are part of this said community, well, they won't be that much inclined to attend events, to work jointly with staff and administration, and they will just continue living their lives without knowing anything about what's really happening. So what I want to say is that we need to take students into account, and also we need to be accountable to them, because we need to show them that, well, you have a voice and it's listened, because look, we've done that for you. And that's this communication part that is really important, because a lot of students see things, but they don't believe it's for them, especially. So, yeah.
You're all mentioning co-creation and true engagement, and I also believe there is a big difference between representation and acting there as a policymaker, making decisions, feeling part of the whole system, and that you can influence these decisions. Where do you think that the students can truly have an impactful contribution countered to our institutions, where our institutions are usually cannot or often cannot create these policies? Where is this extra added value of the students, beside, representing for representation's sake?
Well, one big added value that is really important is that students can give their feedbacks on things that are happening for them and also for other people, because, well, there are huge critics actually. They like giving feedbacks and everything. So if their feedback is really, really harsh usually, but it's really constructive sometimes, because you can see that, well, in the harsh reality of what there's, or not reality, in the harsh things that they're saying, there is a part of truth that can be improved and can help them and everyone else. There is also this thing that they can, if it's feasible or not, they can help creating and working in local activities and events. I mentioned beforehand the International European Language Day. For instance, if the administrative staff wants to create an event on that, maybe they can ask students what can be possible to add in order to give some flavor to everything.
Thank you very much. If anybody from the panelists have questions or want to jump into the dialogue, I really want to open the floor. We have some minutes. We have some leftover minutes in our schedule. So feel free to ask questions and drop ideas. This is the main reason, the main goal of such a roundtable. So I just want to give a few seconds to all the contributors if they want to add anything extra or comment on what has been talked about so far. Because if there are no questions or additions, then I very much, want to thank you for all this very exciting and engaging dialogue with you. And with that, I would like to conclude and jump into our closing session. And as we approach the end of our webinar, our roundtable, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Mette Bunting to offer us a brief reflection on the key takeaways and the possible next steps from this roundtable. And if you could recommend one concrete policy action or any kind of action that could strengthen school and higher education collaboration across Europe or inside their alliances, would be very much welcome. But the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. And I must say, I thank you for all the people that contributed. So many interesting projects and experiences and possibilities. And in one sense, I wish now we had lunch and I could sit down and talk to you all to sort of pick your brain and to sort of say, well, what did you really do and how did you manage this? Because, we use the same words, but I'm sure there's so much more richer experiences beneath the words. So I try to sort of think what would I like to point at? I was thinking that this is a university alliance, and one of the presenters were talking about the experiences they had in a project, but that when it came to implement it after the project into the university, that was a bit harder. And I think that is also my experience. Is they are very happy, you're very happy you get funding. You're very happy that you develop things, that you change something in the education, perhaps you work within. But then it's the next step to actually spread it within the university. So when you have developed practices that will make a difference for the students, also feel that they enjoy the studies better and that you get better results. I think one thing is also that how can this alliance support or put a focus on all the good practices to be implemented in the universities, because the universities are very sort of big organization who changes perhaps a bit slowly, if I can be so direct, and can we manage to change the nature of that into us be progressive and change quicker, especially since we have this focus in this alliance as we have. And the other thing several things I also thought about is that there is a lot of research about participation and collaboration, but because of the nature of this alliance, could we manage to do some work together to pinpoint what is actually what we do have to what is sort of the characteristics, because we have different cultures with different experiences, different things we work with. So what is a characteristic that we actually manage to work in the third room? When do we walk away from the first and the second into the third to really collaborate? And what then about that collaboration? How do we manage to sustain it? And some of you said that to have it, it was more sustainable to do over plenty years, several years, to make sure, you know, things, not to sort of have to build new relationships all the time. But I think I thought it was very interesting to look more like from a bird perspective on each project. What are the characteristics from how you have worked, and how can we see this together as a recommendation for how to work in the third room, which actually makes the field and the university work more seamless together, and students, university, but also in research. And I have several things, but I shouldn't go on for too long. I have a little bit more. Is that I thought about how do we describe our roles when we collaborate? Some of you talked about being on equal level, you know, this symmetry or asymmetry between the partners. And how do we make it possible to have a more symmetrical, being on the same level partnership, at the same time respecting the differences, the knowledge we bring to the table being different but valuable? And I think that is something perhaps would be very interesting to look at. I know in the report I remembered in the beginning, that also criticizes, for instance, the universities about not changing the education quickly enough, because they just educate students as all levels has done. But they also criticize the field for not also changing a lot of the practices, even though the community changes. And then they also point back at universities that it actually starts with us. So I think as the EDUC Alliance, we have such a good place to perhaps be in a university alliance who can start to make a difference. And because I find this very interesting, I just would like to say, what could we go on to do something? Well, could we think that we could have some sort of explorative seminar/conference meeting where we have a similar way of perhaps starting with presenting, and then we challenge each other about looking at how we work in different perspectives, just actually see how we can start working with this. Is it possible to think that, because one of the questions for this seminar was about democracy and participation, and how is important is this for that? And I think this is what we actually been talked about today. It's vital for these points about developing inclusion, democracy, participation. And so it's more than just abstract principles, but then we also need to not identify this in each project. We need to identify it more generally. And perhaps an EDUC Alliance could produce a policy brief when it comes to this, with examples of good practice. I'm allowed to think big, aren't I? I hope so anyway. So it is to translate good regional or specific good practice to a bit more practice that can be expressed different in different cultures. So I think all of the projects you are working, I think is very impressive what you have done. And I have made lots of notes for myself to look more into it. But I think we have to look at how can all this experience, plus a lot more in the different universities, how can we lift it up on the level where perhaps EDUC Alliance can develop both policy, methodology, and recommendation for other partners, both in the that works with us, but also generally in Europe and perhaps the rest of the world. Is that a good note to finish?
Excellent. It's an excellent note. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shirley. Well, this brings us to the end of today's roundtable, and I would like to sincerely thank our keynote speaker, all the presenters and contributors for the valuable insights and the engagement. I also thank our audience for joining us today. We hope this webinar contributes to continued cooperation, as it was said, and exchange within EDUC and hopefully beyond. Thank you very much and have a good day.